Hello, this is Victor. I'm here with a new video, and this time I wanted to talk about something especially addressed to people that is starting in the hobby. These people that is starting, especially thinking more in my case where I have more experience in Warhammer 40k and Age of Sigmar. Some of these concepts can be extrapolated into other games, but I'm thinking more on these complex games where you need to invest time, effort, and money, quite a week a month. So, for example, the difference between Age of Sigmar or Warhammer 40k versus Blood Bowl is that for Blood Bowl, the investment and time is much less than if you are collecting an army of Warhammer 40k or Age of Sigmar for the number of miniatures. So this is more addressed to these games that are using big armies, but some of these concepts can also be used for smaller games or skirmish games, or games that need less miniatures. So when you are starting in Warhammer 40k or when you are starting in Age of Sigmar, so you have to think what is driving your interest in this game, why you are there, why you want, because this will dictate as well what type of army and how to approach the hobby. So you need to understand how you want to approach the hobby. So what you like more, if it's collecting, if it's painting, if it's some elaborate strategic tricks, if you like the competitive, if you like to find this, and so what is your if you like the some style, if you got the narrative. So you have to balance, you have to understand yourself what is the purpose for your game. Of course, all we play to win. But some people is more interested on the painting things. Some people is more interested on the narrative part. Some people is only on the competitive and they don't care about the painting and collecting. So this is the first thing you have to understand. I will say that painting, collecting will be something important to take into account. Because even if you are in the competitive part, you will need to collect and paint. Or you will need to find someone painting for you. That is another option. But let's assume that you need to paint yourself. So you will invest a lot of time in painting or some time in painting. So you want this painting, some miniatures that you enjoy painting them. But this is up to everybody. And I know that if you are pure competitive and you are not going to spend time painting, maybe you don't care about this part. So, but if you want to spend time painting and you want to elaborate your narrative, so it's important that first you think how you are approaching this hobby. And there is no a good way and there is not a bad way to approach the hobby, okay? It's just an introspect way or a thing you, what is the motivation for the hobby. How maybe in the group you are very competitive and you are mainly focused on the competitive and you don't care too much on the painting. So this is not the same that if you are in a group that you are playing completely on the narrative, you like this conversion. So this will really address you how you want to approach your hobby, and this is important thing to take into account, okay? The other thing that you have to take into account is, I will always suggest start small, but think in the long term. And I think it's important when you are starting on one of these games, invest sometimes on this. This can seems a little bit too much, but it will save you time, money, and effort in the future. So first of all, start playing small games. Start playing small. This will help you a lot to understand the rules. Don't do big investments on miniatures, especially if it's the first time you're playing this game. Start small, because you don't know what is good and what plays good for you in the game until you start playing, until you start understanding the rules, and until you start understanding the game. The next point is understand your army, and here I will suggest, and I'm always in favor, when you are starting one of these games, I don't see a negative point on using proxies to understand how the game works. I start in this game about Warhammer 40k many years ago, okay, and I was using proxies when I started. First, because I did not have the money. Normally you don't have the money to have all the miniatures, and you want to test how different rules are working. So I think it's good that you start small, you start understanding your army, and if it's needed, start using proxies, because what you have to think is in winning experience. And the next point, and this most of the people, we don't think about that, is plan how you will paint and how you will collect your army. Okay, and here is very personal, and it will depend a lot if you go to tournaments or not, if you play with friends or you play narrative. This is a lot. This is changing a lot. Well, I'm missing here one point, but it's find your point of interest, and it goes back to my previous question. So, what is your motivation to behind the game, behind playing? So, if you are a lot on the collecting, for example, and let's put an example, you are very focused. You like to collect different miniatures. You don't want to have several times the same unit. You don't like this type of armies. You got like an army that you can have several types of miniatures. This will tell you which type of armies you can do. For example, if you're in 40k and you like a lot collecting, most likely humans, elders, even chaos can be good options, because you can jump from different armies. For example, if you're in collecting Space Marines, then you can add some Imperial Guard, or you can add some Inquisition, and you can really collect a lot. If you like a very determined aesthetic, for example, you like a lot the Tyranids, so you are a lot onto the narrative and the painting of Tyranids, of course, then it's your interest will be on painting, but you have to plan how you will paint this army. And I think it's good to think and to understand how much time you will spend for each meter, and understand how long will it take for you to paint the army. If you're playing for tournaments and you are not targeting to have a high standard, also it's important to take this into account. How long you will need to have this army ready to play, okay? Because you will need to build, paint, collect, and this takes time. So I recommend that you think how you are going to collect, especially because this will also have money implications. But I think this is the 3 points that is good to think about when you are starting an army. I want to talk about a third point here, and I think the third point is be careful with popular armies or with popular lists. First of all, any good expert player with experience will do good in a tournament almost with any army. Of course, normally the experienced players are playing the top tier armies, okay? You will hear this in a lot of game systems, that there are some top tier, medium tier, low tier armies, and we have this in Age of Sigmar and in Warhammer 40k. The point is, these tiers are changing a lot with the rules change, with the new armies launches, with the it's really a very dynamic system, and not always the same army is on the top of the crest. Okay, so to play one of these popular armies, you need experience on that army. So not because you make a list with that is the winning of a tournament, you will be able to win a tournament. If you don't have the experience, it's not going to work. The other point is, be careful also, because this, as I said, this is a very cyclic, it's a very dynamic situation, okay? So army that today is top tier can be medium tier and even go to low tier in some months. So this demands that you are completely changing armies, changing, and this is a lot of spending money. So you have to take this into account. I don't say that it's wrong to try to play with popular armies. It's up to everybody how you want to approach the game. But you have to be prepared to spend a lot of money, or at least to buy and sell miniatures quite often, and be a lot of time on eBay or similar, selling and buying miniatures. And both things go together. It will change. Will be changed quite often. You see from one tournament to the other that the top armies can change, and here it comes to the same point. if you have not done this exercise first to start understanding the game rules, second, understand your army, it's very difficult that you take one of these popular armies and without having experience, you will win. Okay, because you will not know the tricks, you will not know how to take the maximum from your army. So sometimes it's better to get very familiar to one army, get attached to this army, really understand the army ins and outs, understand the weak and strength points, and from there you will be able to master an army. And sometimes it is much easier than trying to follow what's called the dynamics of the top tier games. Of course, all this goes with practice, and all this goes with how much time you have to play the armies, or how much time you have to play. Some people will only be able to play maybe once a month. So yeah, if you play once a month, it's very difficult that you are going to be competitive, because to be competitive, I mean, when I mean competitive, to be tournament winners, you have to be quite experienced. You need a lot of practice. But maybe you are more into the narrative and painting. So as I said, think how is appealing to you from aesthetic point of view. Think what is the target when you are approaching the game. So what is the main, and this can change. This is one thing that just to wrap up, this is a thing that changed a lot on me. I start more, when I started on the hobby, I was more on the competitive part. I was thinking all the time, what is the best unit I can put, the most optimized unit I can put on this army. But time over time, I was drifting to painting, to collecting, and to the narrative, giving less importance to be super competitive. So, and I like, then is another, I put that because it's something that I like, to make some strange tricks in between. But in my case, I was drifting. I start in the competitive mindset, and then I drift quite. No, I'm completely on the more on the painting, and trying to forge the narrative of my army. Okay, so these are some advices I want to give. So don't just go for this army because it's the popular and it's the winner. It's not going to be the winner most likely in 2 months. Think what is you appealing on the hobby. Think what are the aesthetics that you like in the hobby, and think that you need to paint this army. Really take this into account when you start choosing your army, and yeah, and ask and get information from many people as you can. If you are really interested in Tyranids, try to find a person that likes Tyranids. If you're interested in Space Marines, trying to find people that knows Space Marines, and they can explain you how they play and how are the style. Because there is another point as well. I did not talk too much about that, but this is the style. Each people prefers some style of game. Some people prefers static armies. Some people prefers aggressive armies. Some people prefers defensive armies. This is also important point, because if you take an army that is used to play aggressively, for example, orcs traditionally is more aggressive, and you want to play defensive, you're going to be frustrated. Okay, so also take this into account. So these are all type of things that you have to think about, and maybe looks quite complex at the beginning. It will come quite natural, but I think it's good to spend some time thinking how you approach a hobby, what type of armies you like, and when I say type, aesthetics, style of game, conversions, collecting, all these type of things. And from there, start small, think of the long term as well, but start small, understand the rules, and be careful, especially for the competitive people, with the popular armies and top tier. And that's all. That's all what I want to talk here. And now, please, leave in the comments below what are the advices that you will give to the people that is starting a new army. What type of advice you will give to them? How you will help a friend starting in Warhammer 40k. That's all for now. Give a like, subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and as usual, thanks a lot for watching, and see you again later. Bye.